Hello, my name is Zachariah with Old Man Gaming. Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to another episode of Astral. This is not a normal episode. As you can tell, there's a space above my head on the recording that is empty. Brian lives in, I don't know if we've talked about it on the show, but he lives in Houston. They have been dealing with the hurricane. Normal recording time, plus there's a bunch of other personal stuff going on, so our normal recording schedule has gotten kind of befuddled. That being said, though, I have just released the 2.0 version of Single Mod, so we thought this was a great time. I'll do it with Brian privately, but a great time to show you guys what we've added to 2.0 while also updating Nellis Stonehand and Alfred Whitecastle to the 2.0 rules, so that when we get back to it, we can just get right into it. And you're probably, I can't imagine why you would be at this point if you're watching the 27th episode of this, but you're probably wondering who I'm talking about. Of course, I have wonderful players here. Our Build Master General for the channel, Philbilly330, playing Nellis Stonehand.
What's up, guys?
And then our partner in all things, TTRPG, Wizard's Respite, Ash, playing Alfred Whitecastle, I guess.
Hey, everybody.
It's not really your name. So, a couple of things we did in this game that's very big and different. Is we updated the equipment. The equipment is, instead of having a list and arbitrary stats, they are much more effect-based. It's a lot more fun and fluid. It focuses more on a build system and speed in combat than maybe actually influencing your stats so much. We did this with armor and weapons, but we're not going to get into that first because there are a couple of things we need to go over first. There's a couple of other things I decided to add because we changed the levels, the way the equipment works. I have added a new perk to each of the new sections. So really quickly, this is going to be kind of freeform, but I'm going to kind of go over how equipment works in a very loose terms to Phil, Billy, and Wizard and all of you out there. Just so that you kind of get an understanding of what we have changed with the perk system. And we also need to kind of look at your perks because some of the perks drastically changed. Because we also changed the momentum system. I'm jumping around too much already. I am totally destroying my own itinerary. I apologize, everybody. But we also changed the momentum system. We reworked it so that you gain a momentum if you beat an opponent by 5 or more. The Game Master gains momentum if you fail a roll by 5 or more. Other than that, your momentum can only be spent to give yourself an additional die and keep the bigger one on defense or non-combat, or to give yourself another attack. So that's what momentum does now. The momentum effects are gone. They're all added into the weapons and are just on the weapons. There's no more like using a knife and then spending a momentum to make your opponent bleed. It's kind of silly anyway. So now what you do is if you have a knife and it has bleed, you make your opponent bleed. If you have a knife that pierces, it pierces. That's just how the weapons work. Because of that, I also wanted to make sure that all of the perks were much easier to handle. So they no longer require momentum. None of them do. Instead, they either influence something automatically or they have a number of uses. You can use them per game, per session, per encounter, that sort of thing. Does everybody understand it?
Yeah.
All right,
Yeah.
I'm not going to go over every perk. So what I want to do first is I want to start with the perks that you guys have, tell you guys what they do now, and then I also want to tell you, or if they even exist anymore, because some of them got changed. And then I also want to go over the new perks for each section and see if you guys would be interested in that. So let's just take turns. Now let's you go first. Give me your first perk.
For force, I have pumped.
Pumped. Pumped is the same. I do not believe it has changed in any way, shape, or form because all it does is give you a force to be used, extra momentum to be used only for force. With that being said, I will clarify one thing. Because of the way the momentum is spent, you can't use it on defensive actions in any way, shape, or form. You can only use it on force, non-contested rolls, or 4 extra attacks. Does that make sense?
Yep.
Okay. Wizard, your first one.
All right. For perks, first one is going to be force for a critical eye.
Critical eye. All right. Critical eye. I'm just going to reread this because I don't remember if this is one that changed or not. A character with this perk is adept at attacking exactly where they want to, and using that ability to apply the most damage by targeting certain areas to repeatedly attack. When resolving damage from an attack from a character with this perk, the target has received an injury threshold. This character gets to choose the location instead of rolling the random location. I believe that's the same for the most part. I think I just worded it a little bit better.
Yeah, that looks like it's the same effect.
All right, Phil, your next perk.
Under agility, I have counter.
All right, counter is exactly the same. That is one that I did not change because I had already changed it in the 1.5 rules. If you hit your opponent by if you dodge your opponent by 5 or more, you can elect to make a free attack on them during their turn. On their turn that is resolved before the rest of their turn is.
And it's just the roll, correct? Or is it now?
It's just 5 or more, period. It's not just the roll.
Oh, okay.
However,
so that changed a little.
However, a character with this perk may only make 1 counter per opponent per turn.
Okay.
I don't know if that was specifically spelled out. We always played it that way. But basically that means that, like, if you're fighting 3 people, you can counter each of them once. You can't counter them, like, 6 times or whatever.
I don't know if we ever ran into that situation.
You know, we probably wouldn't, because one of the big reasons, and since we're just doing this as kind of a free-form discussion, one of the big reasons I felt the need to change momentum is momentum was just not used in the way that I wanted it to be. People tended to save it primarily for rerolls. That's what people used it for, was rerolls. Whereas momentum is supposed to be kind of like this statistical representation of you doing good and gaining momentum in a fight or in the situation at a whole. Does that make sense? So, like, now you can just spend momentum in a turn and just keep attacking. It's much more centered that way. So we never really ran into it before because not a lot of people would attack more than once or twice, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Phil was just trying to pick my nose through his camera.
I was turning the light on. I noticed I looked like a floating head.
You were very dark. You were very dark. It was you were going full White Wolf on us. Okay, Alfred, your next one.
Okay, for agility, I think is that difference?
Just read the
Light
perk.
step.
Light steps. This is the same. Characters with this have trained on how to move without making noise. Characters with this perk add +2 to their single mod for any stealth or silent moving check.
Okay.
So that's the same. Phil, your next one.
Combo under agility.
Okay. I don't think this changed, but I'm going to read it just to make sure. These characters are incredibly good at seeing openings and weak points in a target's defenses while on the offensive, allowing them to make additional attacks where others wouldn't be able to. When this character rolls more than 5 above their opponent on a roll pre-bonuses, they may take an additional attack without spending momentum. This power can only be used once per player's turn.
So this is the one that the dice roll has to beat by 5.
This is the one that the dice roll has to be by 5. Which is weird. I'm not exactly sure why I did that. I'm sure I had a reason, but present now, Zach, is not exactly sure why. But
they used to both be that way.
Yeah.
And you changed counters, so what I'm wondering is should you also change combo just to make it
I think I should, but
smoother?
I have published this as of today, and I wish I had done it before I did that. But why don't we just play it without that? Okay.
Okay.
But either way, the power can only be used once per player's turn, so you can only get one combo attack per turn, regardless of how many people you're fighting. That might be a little bit different.
Because that will get rid of. I don't know if you remember this happening a lot. It's been a while since we had combat, but remember how sometimes I would be like, Zach, what was your roll? And
Yeah.
you would, and then I'd be like, no, just the dice roll.
Yeah, no, I hated
So that'll
that too.
kind of eliminate me doing that because it also to you guys out there, the audience might have seemed like I was being weird by wanting to know his exact dice roll, but there was actually a reason I was
I
asking.
need to know, Zach. I need to know. No, there was. The other thing is too. I do want to say to everybody out there, this is a living document, and I keep saying we. I'm using the royal we. When it comes to single mod, in its core, everything, I write it, I edit it, I do everything. So I miss stuff every time. So that might be something that I may have just not felt the need to change that perk during the 2.0 edit. And then because of that, missed that, kind of overlooked that. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So everybody out there, please keep that in mind. I try. Okay, so Wiz, your next perk.
All right. I think I had one more in agility, and what was throwing me off is I think this is one of the ones that you changed or
Probably.
Renamed, completely
It's possible.
redid it. Let me pull that back up.
We got a guest star. We had a guest star on the show.
I know.
Yeah.
Little Alble's guest star. What is it?
Faint.
Yeah, Faint went away.
Let me double check
Was
the old
Faint
document. I think it was. Yeah,
I think so.
I just looked it up on the old document.
Faint is a force perk. It's still there.
Oh,
it's a force perk. Yeah.
I was looking in the wrong section.
And I didn't change any like where any of the perks were, so it was always a force perk.
Okay.
And I did change it. Well, I didn't change it. This is the one I asked you about where I thought I kind of copped out on it, but I rewrote it to kind of make more sense with the new rules. This is the only perk that kind of directly relates to momentum. So a character with this ability uses weak or telegraphed attacks to mask more dangerous and deadly follow-ups. On attack rolls, the character may now spend a momentum and roll an additional d20, keeping the higher roll. So basically, what it does is it gives you the ability to spend a momentum to roll 2 dice on an attack instead of just gaining an extra attack.
Right.
It works primarily the same way it did before, okay? But the only reason this one kind of stayed is because it's more about changing the way you use the momentum and less about an actual power coming from the momentum. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So it's not like I'm spending momentum to negate your defense. It's I'm spending momentum and I'm gaining an extra roll on my attacks from, I can do that now, just like you can with defense or non-contested. If you take feint, you can do that with attacks, basically.
Right, okay.
Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Phil, next perk.
Slip under agility.
All right, slip under agility. Characters with this perk are adept at reacting to blows by rolling their body with the strike. When a character with this perk is hit for the first time in a full round of combat, they will add the amount of unspent momentum they have to their soak. This can only be used on an attack when using this as a game master for the NPC. When using this as a game master for the NPC, use half the available GM momentum. So, if you have 3 momentum unspent, which actually gives you kind of a reason to not spend it, which is weird, but if you have 3 momentum unspent, the first time you get hit, you'll add a +3 to your soak. But that's in a round, right?
Yeah.
In a full round of combat. So if 3 people are attacking you, first guy attacks you, that's the one you're adding +3 to. Second guy, third guy, it's not affected until it comes back to your turn and it resets. Does that make sense?
Gotcha. Yeah.
And I want to tell you both. Even though you're in the master phase and your character should be locked down, I added 7 perks. So after we go through all of these, I'm going to give you guys the choice to potentially to switch out. Okay? Especially since a lot of the perks have changed. If you don't like them, I'm going to give you the option to change them. Okay?
Okay. I was also wrong. I'm 9 away from mastering it out, but I have 49 unspent. So
Yeah, that sounds about right for me too. Like I'm just like a hair below like getting to master, but just at that level where it's like there's
Getting
not a lot I
close.
can really like bump up there because of how much everything costs at this level.
Okay, so Wiz, your next perk.
All right, so I'm actually moving out of agility and into the endurance perks.
Okay.
My next perk is going to be Roach.
Most of the endurance perks stayed exactly the same. They all kind of worked. All I did was add like a couple of perks to like 1 or 2 perks to it. I think Shake It Off was the only one that really changed. So Roach
Okay.
is exactly what it was before.
Okay. Okay.
Which is, without knowing exactly why, this character's hard to kill. You ignore the first failed death save of any game.
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. Nellis, your next one.
that would be tank under endurance.
I believe this one's the same. Classic wrestling no sell with this character can shrug off a piece of incoming damage through sheer force of will. Once per game, that might be where it changed. Once per game, after damage targeting them is decided, the character may declare to use this perk and reduce that damage to 0.
Yeah, that's what I used to have too.
Okay,
So
cool. So that's, like I said, endurance didn't change that much because most of the endurance stuff was not using momentum anyway. So Alfred, your next one.
Okay. So I didn't have that many endurance as it is.
That's
So and since they're all pretty much the same, I'm jumping right into intelligence next.
Some of these changed.
I really hope this one didn't change because I liked it a lot.
Outsmart.
Deduction.
Oh, deduction. I don't think it did. Let me read it, make sure. These
Okay.
characters are extremely astute and very observant. When it comes to the world around them, they are able to pick up things others wouldn't. Characters with this perk have the ability to ask the game master up to 3 yes or no questions per session that must be answered honestly. I think that's
Okay.
exactly the same.
Yeah, it is, and that makes me happy because I love that. That's probably my favorite perk.
Deduction's fun. Deduction's fun, and it makes game masters' lives living hell. Phil Billy, what's your next one?
learner in intelligence. That was the one that used to give you 3 additional XP per session.
That's pretty much the same. Character gains additional 3 XP every session, regardless of other awards. So yeah, you get extra experience points. Alfred, your next one.
I'm trying to double check against it to make sure I got my order right. Let's see. Learner was going to be my next one, but we're good there.
We got that.
Cold read.
Cold read. That's a perception, right?
Yes. So jumping down to perception.
Here we go. I'm going to read it because this one may have changed. These characters have an affinity for knowing when someone is lying to them. At the beginning of each game, the character gets 3 cold read tokens. Any remaining at the end of the session are lost. At any point during the game, they may spend one of these tokens after someone else speaks within earshot. The game master, parentheses, or player, depending on the situation, must divulge to the character whether or not the thing said was a lie or not.
Okay, that looks about the
Okay.
same, and that's how I've used it with the 3 cold read
I
tokens.
wasn't sure because perception was probably the most changed of the perks. Like some of the actual names of perception stuff got changed. So, um, Nellis, what's your next one?
Outsmart and intelligence.
Outsmart. This one got changed a little bit, just tweaked a little bit. Basically the same thing. It's just it did have a momentum expenditure before. It doesn't anymore. These characters are good with their minds and forethought to cause problems for those trying to hurt or trip them. 3 times per session, a player with this perk may target one other character, PC or NPC. When targeted, the character with this perk gets to know all of the perks the target character has. They may also name a perk. This perk cannot be used by any characters within 100 feet of this character. This includes allied characters. This stays in effect until the character with this perk chooses a different perk as the target. They may only choose a perk to target once per turn before they take any other actions, including their positioning move. So, in layman's term, when it becomes your turn, before you get your free move, before you get your free attack, anything, if you use Outsmart, you get to use it 3 times. So there is a limit on the total amount of times you can use it. But if you change the amount of times you change the perk is unlimited, but you have to do it before you do anything else on your turn. Okay?
Gotcha.
And it stays in effect until your next turn. So basically this just wards against you being like, oh, well, I'm going to negate counter while I'm fighting this guy. And then when it becomes Alfred's turn, I'm going to turn that off so Alfred can use counter. You know what I mean? Like stuff like that. Yeah, I know Alfred doesn't have counter. It was just an example. But like that's basically why that is that way.
I actually
Gotcha.
do have counter.
What? Oh, you do have counter?
Yeah.
Oh, perfect.
He didn't need to tell you probably because he heard it when I did
Yeah,
it.
I
Yeah,
get it. I
yeah.
totally
I
get it.
haven't. We have a lot of the similar ones, so I've just been skipping the ones that.
Makes it easier. Makes it easier
Yeah.
on Papa Game Master here. All right, so Wizard, what's the next one you want?
um. Let's see. Just
You just did Learner. What's your last one?
okay. So just think. Double check.
And Cold Read. Do you have any charisma
Command.
perks? Command.
Yeah.
Command.
Yeah. I am skipping a couple where
This
Phil's
over,
already gone over.
yeah, that's
But
fine. While similar to Rally, this character makes a forceful and loud yell, something that startles, confuses, or otherwise draws all the attention in the scene to them for at least a second. During any scene, this character halts everyone around him with forceful language. All characters they are attempting this on must be able to hear them. They will get at least a moment to speak as well. If this stops a combat scene, initiative is re-rolled, and the character who used this perk will automatically be the first in the initiative order. This perk trumps other powers and or abilities. So if you're using command, you're first. Doesn't matter what they have. This cannot be used on the same characters twice in one day. This does not allow the character using it to take a free attack or stealth attack. So,
right. Okay.
layman's terms, you're in the middle of a fight, you use command. It's not a momentum spend, you just use it. But you can only ever use it on any character once per day, period. So everybody in that fight has already been popped for that. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Once you use it, you get a second to basically talk to them or not. If the fight continues, you immediately go first in action, but you do not get a free attack or a stealth roll or anything like that based on it. Make sense?
Yeah. Yeah. And that's pretty similar to how you had it before. I think
It was. I think I clarified some things. Like the free attack, stealth attack thing definitely wasn't in there before. I also think it required a momentum, even though the language for can only be used on one person on a person once per day was already in there. I think it still required a momentum weirdly. So like there was a couple of things that I like tweaked about it.
You're right. You're right. It did require a momentum. I am going to fix that right now. This has been a fun perk to use.
Yeah.
I don't get to use it like super often, but when you do use it, it is like the moment.
I think
That's
maybe
what you used when I was about to fight to the chick's minion dude, remember?
Yeah.
The troll guy.
Oh.
Taya Volk's first mate,
Yeah,
dude.
Milo. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's a fun power. It's a fun power. There'll be definitely some more combat, I think, coming you guys' way. Especially now that I don't think combat's going to take 45 minutes. So, Phil, you're next perk.
That would be Fortunate under Charisma.
Pretty sure Fortunate is the same. I'm going to reread it just to make sure. A character with this is never really out of momentum, able to change their fates at a moment's notice. When a character with this perk ends a turn in which they spent momentum, they may roll a d20. Oh, okay. So this is... Okay.
And if it's above 10, they
This
don't...
actually got better.
Wait, this has changed.
This actually got better.
Sounds like it changed.
When they have spent momentum, they may roll a d20. If they roll above a 10, they will recover a momentum. If they roll an 18, 19, or 20, they will recover 2 momentum, but only if 2 momentum or more were spent. They can never earn a momentum with this ability, only recoup momentum spent this turn. So, layman's terms, Phil, you are in combat. You spend 1 momentum to take an attack, and then you take some shots. You take some shots, and then you roll Fortunate. You get the 18. You can only get that 1 momentum back because you didn't spend 2. But if you spend 2, then you can get 2 back.
Gotcha.
Tell her I said hi. Hi, Obs.
Uncle says hi.
One day you and Stella can have the channel. One day all this will be yours.
Stella's already asleep.
Yeah, hopefully. Fingers crossed.
He says he thinks so.
Okay, so does that all make sense for Fortunate for you?
Yeah.
All right, Alfred. Any other perks? I think we're getting towards the bottom of the list.
We are.
you
I did have
hiding?
Lucky as well.
I'm sorry. Say that again.
Lucky.
Lucky, I'm pretty sure is the same player that always seems to roll 20. Poker player, blah blah blah. This character starts with 2 luck tokens at the beginning of the game. Anytime a character rolls a natural 20 on a die, they receive another luck token. They may spend a luck token on any character roll that's theirs or other people's, forcing a reroll.
Okay.
That
does change a little bit.
It was actually always that way. I just reworded it better.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay, cool. I think that's it for mine, though.
All right. Anything else for Nullus? I think he's got Companion. Pickles isn't
Pickles.
changed. Pickles is unchanged. Companion was not something that needed to be changed. All right. Really quickly. Here comes the trick, because some things I added 7 perks, and obviously I changed some combat stuff. So I'm going to read the new perks to you. I'm going to give you guys chances to ask questions, but if you want to change perks, you are welcome to do so, as long as you have the stats to warrant it. Okay? So going back up to the top. Okay? And most of these perks deal with the new equipment system and the new effect system. So, back up at the top. Force perks. We have Impact is the new perk. Characters with this perk characters with the perk know how to make the most out of their weapon. They may choose 1 offensive weapon effect on their weapon that is lower than 3. This effect is increased by 1. If they cannot raise an effect level due to it not having effects or the levels already being at 3, they may choose one offensive weapon effect the weapon does not have and put it to 1 while the weapon is equipped. They must always raise an effect level if it can be raised before taking a completely new effect. So, speaking on the new effects, weapons don't do damage. They don't do pluses or minuses to your attack. Instead, what they have is they have effects. That's based on the quality of the weapon that you are holding, how many effect levels you have. Each effect has 3 levels of effectiveness, basically. So if you have an average quality weapon, that's 3 effect levels. So you might have bleed level 2 and then stagger level 1. And then those do different things in battle. So when you are fighting, the effect level is just applied to your attack, however it may be applied. Okay? So instead of adding extra shit to your roll, it's just roll and then apply the effect. The only things you are adding to your roll, in addition to the normal single mod stuff, is the offhanded weapon penalty, or OWP, and the multiple armor penalty, MAP. The OWP is always -3 to your defense, period. It did kind of go up from last time, but that's because using 2 weapons now, what that does is it just stacks the effect levels. Which can be really fucking brutal. Really, really brutal, depending on the weapons that you are with. It is going to make things kind of tricky and may change some things, so bear with me, growing pains. I know Nullus is going to be affected by this, both positively and negatively. But, that being said, there is that -3 to your defense. So, it's only going to be on your defense, not your attack. Reverse, though, with your armor. You can be wearing a total of 4 pieces of armor. Now, armor has effect levels too. They do not have 3 levels of effect. Instead, you gain an effect level for every 2 pieces of armor you are wearing. So, all the effect levels have 2 levels. Okay? But, for each piece of armor you're wearing, you have an additional -1 to your attack. And that's above 1. So it ends up being a -3 if you are fully kitted out with armor. Okay? To your attack. Armor also gives you a vitality bump, depending on whether it's light, medium, or heavy, and then the quality of the build of the armor. Does all that make sense?
Yes.
Yeah. All right. So with that in mind, impact, taking this perk means you would have a weapon, you just be like, I'm going to bump this perk effect up by 1 when you have it in your hand. So like if you have a weapon that does bleed 2, it now does bleed 3. If you have a weapon that only does bleed 3, you can take a random extra perk, basically. Or extra effect level. Now going down to agility. I'm not going to go through everything that changed. There are a couple of changes to like perception. So, like I said, I'll try and get to everything. Ambidextrous is your agility. A character with this perk has trained themselves to be able to use both hands as if it was their main hand. When using 2 weapons, their OWP is reduced to -1. So in this case, instead of -3, they have a -1 on their defense when using 2 weapons because they're ambidextrous. Endurance perks. We come down to 2 perks changed here. Unaffected had to change because it was kind of a weird one anyway. And then heavy metal. So, unaffected. Characters with this are prepared mentally and physically for whatever they may be facing. They also do not suffer the effects in the same way as others. When this character is struck with an offensive effect, the level of that effect is reduced by 1 and can be nullified if the level would be reduced to 0. So if somebody's attacking you with a bleed level 1 weapon and you have unaffected, bleed is nullified, period. Then heavy metal. Characters with this perk are adept at wearing and moving in armor and being effective in combat. any map, multiple armor piece, effect on the character is reduced by 1. Okay? So basically you get an extra piece of any. Yeah, so you're basically like you're -1 to whatever your map is. So
Yeah.
period. Okay, and like I said, unaffected changed because the original unaffected perk dealt with something in like with the we've completely dropped sharp and blunt as things. That was really bothering all the players, and I can't necessarily disagree with them. I think it's a good concept, but in practice, it just slows everything way the fuck down. So we've gotten rid of that, and unaffected dealt with that. So instead, it changes to the effect levels. Moving into intelligence perk, we go down to efficiency. Characters with this perk have studied how to most effectively use their armor and protection to get the best results. The player requires 1 less piece of armor to gain levels of the armor's defensive effects. They get level 1 for wearing 1 piece of armor and level 2 for wearing 3 pieces of armor.
Wait, what?
Level 1 for for wearing 3 because you get the level 2 for 4. So basically they could get the effect levels earlier with by wearing less armor, basically.
Okay.
All right, perception. Double target was one of the ones that changed. I did not like what the original perk was. I can't remember what it was called. I think it was like something about movement or something. But characters with this perk can now assess the situation in order to maximize their offensive potential. Once per encounter, they may elect to make a trick shot or take a trick attack, and may target 2 targets within short range of each other with 1 roll without spending momentum. So you can attack 2 targets within 10 feet of each other, basically. That's another thing. We have dropped the way range was being done. We're back to classes. So everything within 5 feet of you is melee range. Everything within, I cannot remember the actual numbers right now. I think it's 15 feet is short range. Then I think medium is something to 35, and then long is something above that, and then it goes long +1, +2, +3, +4, blah, 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 blah. So I don't have them in front of me right now. I don't want to skip to them because I'm going through this, but yeah, we're just doing range classes, so you can move 1 range class, basically, from yourself to somewhere else. Does that make sense?
Yeah, so if you were in melee, you could, with a free action, close to someone who is in short range.
Yes, exactly. Well, and there's no free action anymore. What we're calling it is there's the free action, which is the attack or an action, and then there's the positioning move, and everybody gets the positioning move. You get to move 1 without actually spending momentum. Spending momentum allows you to move another range class. That's how it's going to work.
Okay.
All right, so, blah, 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 blah. So, okay, so back on double. Oh, we already did that. 2 attacks within short range. Then prepared changed a little bit. Once per encounter, this character may increase their soak by the perception score in addition to endurance for 1 incoming damage. So basically, this was a momentum expenditure, but now it's once per encounter. Flow same, and then nullify. Characters with this perk can negate the effects of incoming weapons at crucial moments, allowing them to survive difficult attacks. 3 times per game, when a character fails a defensive roll and is about to take any damage, they may nullify the offensive effects of the weapon hitting them, period. Down to 0. So it's basically like a more brutal version of unaffected, but you can only do it 3 times per game. Make sense?
Yeah.
Okay.
Not bad.
It's not bad at all. And then the last new perk, because charisma mostly stayed the same. We just took out the momentum for a lot of stuff. Last new perk there is Hot Streak. Characters with this perk are adept at getting a roll and pushing forward. Once per game, the character may activate this power at the beginning of their turn or before they are about to make a roll. Beginning of the turn or before they are about to make a roll. The next 5 rolls they make will gain a momentum if they roll 3 or more above the target number instead of 5.
Oh, so how you gain momentum has changed.
So you gain momentum. I covered it a little bit in the beginning, but I rushed over it. How you gain momentum now is if you beat a roll, any roll, whether it's contested or a difficulty, by 5 or more, you gain a momentum. Period.
Ooh, I'm gonna be taking that perk.
Yeah, this isn't bad.
My dude is a multi-shot guy.
There is also no limit on spending the momentum you gain in a turn, so you can just keep going if you want to. If you lose a roll by 5 or more, I gain a momentum. Game Master gains a momentum, and that's just how we're doing it from now on. No more. Again, another thing that I think was really cool on paper and in concept was you come up with the roll, you get the momentum sort of thing. But figuring out in the moment whose idea it was to make a roll or do an action just gets a little complicated and obnoxious. So in this case, I was just like, we'll just do it this way. So those are the new perks. You guys are welcome to switch out your perks as long as, like I said, you switch out the perks for something else and you have the stats required to get those perks. Okay? We don't have to go over that right now, but that's what it's going to be.
Okay.
All right. So, want to cover a couple other things quick. We changed a little bit of how we're going to... One of the things that I learned from the playtesting and all the games we've played since then is there is a disparity to the people who spend momentum compared to the people who finish a game with momentum on how much experience points they're gaining. So what I've added is a kind of a learner's hash. So anytime you fail a roll, you make a little hash. And for every 1 of those hashes, you gain an experience point. Okay? So everything else is the same. You can gain experience points for turning in your momentum at the end of the session, just like normal. But also, when you're failing, you get a little hash, and then you gain an experience point every one of those 3 hashes. Okay? Okay, so that's the big stuff for that. Now let's go over your weapons and figure out where you made. Of course, he clasps his hand. He has the most equipment. I don't know how you ended up being the loot goblin, even without trying, but you have, like, when I was going to make the equipment, I was like, well, there's 1 for Alfred, there's 2 for Aether, and then there's 4 for Nellis. All right, so, Nellis. So, again, equipment's super easy, guys. You can... it's just effect levels, basically. So, neither one of you are going to have any starting armor because you've never had any starting armor, so we haven't done it. We will eventually get you guys some starting armor. I have no problems with that. It's just the only person with, like, a clear-cut, like, pieces of armor is Brian's character because of the hide stuff he got from Malgarak. Like, it's very clear that he actually got hide armor there, whereas... You guys we never discussed armor, so I left that off this.
I did get those gauntlet things that are kind of like armor and weapon, but I have to get them fitted for me.
I did not forget those. I have their stats here. However, the one thing about this system is your item is always either offensive or defensive.
Okay.
Period. And here's the thing. I know a lot of people are like, what about a shield? A shield is an offensive weapon. Here's the thing. There is an effect level called structure where it gives you extra vitality and extra threshold. So if you're using a shield, you can use it to attack, but it gives you structure to actually boost your defensive capabilities. Does that make sense? So I kind of cleared it with the effect level. So if you're holding it or you're using it to fight, it is an offensive weapon. So those gauntlets, those like arm gauntlets that he had, offensive weapon all the way because they're claws. So here's the stats. We'll start there since you mentioned them. So a couple of things about the weapons. First, you figure out what the quality is. It can be poor, fair, average, high, masterwork. That gives you the effect levels, 1 through 5. Then there's a couple of modifiers. On ranged weapons for ammo, if it's 1 to 4 ammo, you get +2 effect levels. 6 to 10, you get +1. 11 to 20, no change. 21 to 30, -1 effect level. And then 31 to 60 plus, -2 effect levels. And this is for everybody out there, not necessarily you guys. If the weapon is an offensive weapon that does not require you to have it equipped, such as these gauntlets, it has -1 effect level because basically you're not using a hand for it. That's a bonus. That's kind of an effect level in itself. Whereas if the weapon is two-handed, you actually get +1 effect level. That's how we kind of like balance out the big nasty sword for damage, but it's a big nasty sword. Does that make sense? All right. Yeah. So your gauntlets are fine quality. However, they require no hand. So their total effect levels are 3 all the way around. Their structure, and they have 1 effect level of structure, which gives you a +10 vitality. And then they have 2 levels of bleed. And bleed means, well, not 2 levels, but level 2 bleed, which means on a successful attack, the target is considered bleeding. They will remain bleeding until receiving some kind of bandaging or until the amount of rounds equal to the amount of damage they took from the base attack. While bleeding, they will lose 2 vitality at the beginning of their turn, each turn. Level 1 is 1 vitality, level 3 is 3 vitality. Bleed cannot stack. However, if the bleed attack is done to the character for more damage than the remaining turns on the bleed effect, the rounds left are increased to the new damage dealt. So, layman's terms, you claw somebody with them. You deal 8 points of damage, right? That is 8 rounds of bleed for 2 vitality each one of those 8 rounds, right? If they go, if 2 more rounds go by in that combat, and I don't know how that would happen without one of you being dead, but if 2 more rounds of that combat go by, it goes down to 6 rounds, and you hit them for 9 points of damage, you're not going to deal an additional 2 points of bleed. Instead, it's going to reopen the wound back up to 9. So we restart the counter, basically. Does that make sense?
Yep.
Those are the claws. There you go. That's the simple beauty of equipment. It's just all the fun, none of the fuss. Should put that on a t-shirt. All right. Next, we will do your 45s.
The Macumbers.
The Macumbers 45, which was very difficult to do, but we did them. All right. They are average quality 45s. They have 11 shots per, by the way. And just so you know, if you are using them together, same rules apply. They are both being fired. So if you're dual wielding them, they're both using the same amount of shots.
Yeah.
There is no more speed reload or skill reload in this game. You just use an action to reload a weapon. Okay?
Okay.
Another reason that you get bonuses for the ammo running out. So because they're average and they have 11, they get a +1 effect level. So that's 4 total effect levels. Here we go. They have break level 2, which is a fun one. It means on a successful hit, the target's threshold for injury is only 3. Not 5, 3. Yeah, you're doing the math in your head there, Alfred.
Yeah.
if he does 4 or more damage, he injures them now.
Yeah.
Instead of 6 or more.
Oh That can turn ugly.
Yeah. But we're not even done because he's got 2 more effect levels.
All right.
Your second effect level, you have 1 level of Pierce, which makes this even worse. And that means on a successful attack with this weapon, you bypass 2 of the target's soak. So yeah.
Oh shit.
Yeah, those 2 together are real bad. Real bad.
Yeah, that's real bad. That's just tearing these people to pieces.
Mm-hmm. And then finally, you have 1 more effect level, and that is in Ready. And that means that I scrolled too far. That means that you have a +2 on your initiative rolls when equipped with this weapon.
Oh, nice.
That's cool for a gunslinger, man.
Well, it gets even worse because you. Here's the trick. Here's how it both helps you and hurts you to dual wield these guns. Because if you do, it's almost better with the new system to dual wield 2 different types of guns, but it will still help you. If you dual wield these guns together, the effect levels stack, but obviously you can't get above the 3. So if you were using both of these together, your break would go to level 3, your pierce goes to a level 2, and your ready goes to a level 2. Okay? So just to give you the stat differences on that, the break level 3 would be they get injured on their injury threshold's 3. No, I think it's 2. Hold on.
2, yeah.
Be 2. It's 2 or more. Pierce means you negate 4 of their soak. And then Ready to means you get a +4 on your initiative roll. The only downside here is you have the +1 negative to your defensive rolls, because before it was only a -2, now it's a -3. But you see why it's a little bit more powerful. The other thing is, too, using them together, you lose one kind of efficiency level in effects. Does that make sense? Because you can't get a break level 4.
Oh, okay.
You see what I'm saying? So, you stack the effects when you're using 2 weapons together. But you can't get a break level 4.
3.
Right. So, does that make sense? What do you think about the new system? Love to hear your opinion.
Seems cool.
Okay. You
yeah,
see where the
this is
build
really
kind of gets crazy, though, right?
Yeah.
Before we do your last one, which is also nasty as fuck, which means I need to get these other guys some cool equipment, we're going to do Ash's rapier. So your rapier is a one-handed weapon, which means it's standard. It is an average quality weapon, which means it's 3 effect levels. Okay? Because you're using the same rapier you've always used, basically.
Yeah.
So those 3 effect levels you've actually already heard. You get a Pierce 2, which bypasses 4 of your opponent's soak.
Cool.
And then you get a Ready of level 1, which gives you a +2 to initiative.
Okay. Oh, that's
hold
gonna
on,
be
guys.
super
We got a
helpful. My God.
guest star here.
Some-
Yeah, she wasn't asleep either. So there you go. She came down crying though because she can't go to sleep. So I'll go up when we're done with this. But so that's your rapier. Nice and simple. All the fun, none of the fuss. All right.
Yeah.
So that brings us finally to the scariest weapon that I had to create today, which is the arcane revolver. Which, in fairness, would be pretty scary. So I'm not necessarily upset about it, but yeah. So the arcane revolver is a fine quality weapon that only has 6 shots, which means it has +1 effect level. So that means it has 5 effect levels. Now, the spell power, the whole draw in bullets thing, that hasn't changed. All of that stuff is still there. You can use that whenever. Okay? That's up to you. But in addition to that, it has Pierce 3, which means it negates 6 of their soak. It has long range level 1, which means so all weapons, all ranged weapons shoot long ranged. All melee weapons fight in melee range. So, period. Doesn't matter what you got. However, if your weapon has long ranged, it means it can go up to long +5. So you can now take basically sniper shots with that fucking thing.
Okay.
And then
Damn.
and then stagger level 1, which basically means you throw them every time you hit them. So, level 1, on a successful attack, the target is pushed in the opposite direction of the attack. The distance is the number of feet equal to the damage done. If the target strikes anything or is pushed off something, then additional damage can be dealt. If striking an object, then add the amount of distance they did not travel ×2 to the damage of the attack, included in the threshold damage.
Bro.
Yeah.
That stagger's good.
Yeah.
Okay, say that one more time, the first part of it.
On a successful attack, the target is pushed in the opposite direction of the attack. The distance is a number of feet equal to the damage done. If the target strikes anything or is pushed off something, then additional damage can be dealt. If striking an object, then add the amount of distance they did not travel ×2 to the damage of the attack, included in the threshold damage. So if you shoot them and you deal 6 points of damage, that means they are hurled 6 feet backwards. If they go 3 feet and run into a wall, they take 6 extra damage.
Okay.
Wait a sec. So he's got that with sniper too.
Yep.
Or not sniper, I'm sorry, long range.
Yeah.
So if he's long range shooting somebody
Yeah.
who's running at him and he knocks them back 6 feet, he could just waste them by
It's
the time they
crazy.
even get close enough to do anything.
I told you, this game is going to get real crazy and real fun.
You also have to remember the immediate thing I'm thinking is I use magic.
Mm-hmm.
I could come up with a spell that like puts a spike that grows out of the ground or something and start shooting people into spike pits, basically.
Yeah, it's a scary weapon. It's a scary weapon.
So wait. So if you were to like dual wield the arcane revolver with the Macumber, let's
Yep.
say, the
Okay.
Macumber gains that pushback too.
Yep.
Oh.
Well, the thing is your attack gains that pushback. You're still making one attack, even though it's 2 dice, basically. The idea is it's all floated into one. So, like, both guns will shoot. Both guns will expend an ammo. So, the downside of this is after 6 shells, you're not going to be dual wielding anymore.
Correct. Yeah.
You know? So it's kind of comes down to that. But at the same time, like you said, you can really get a crazy span of like equipment with dual wielding. That's why I felt the need to up the OPW, the OWP, higher than it was, because it was only a -2. I had to up it to a -3 because of the fact that like the sheer span of effects that you can put together is scary, especially as a ranged dual wielder.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's dope. That's real cool.
I dig it.
I have some ideas.
Yes, I'm sure you do. Yeah, I do like that you're both smiling. That makes me happy about this game's changes, honestly. A little nervous, but happy.
Especially because you know how I had to get those gauntlets refitted?
Yeah.
I could literally, I know it would be possibly throwing or changing the bleed level, but I could actually have them alter the the spikes so that I can at least wear the gauntlets with no penalty while dual wielding pistols and gain 10 vitality.
Yeah, without a doubt. I mean, every
Mm.
piece of armor gains you vitality. To
But
me,
that wouldn't count as my armored
no, not at all.
thing, so it's kind of like a free.
Yeah, it's free vitality because you're giving up that effect level for extra vitality, basically.
Right.
I will say this: you'll only get the bleed when you're attacking with the claws.
Yeah.
Though. Obviously, like that won't stack. But like, the and then the armor, like I said, is very like you have light, mid, and heavy armor. Light giving you the least amount of extra vitality, heavy giving you the most, dependent on its quality of build. But then each one of those armors have have 4 different effects of their own, levels 1 and 2, which is a lot. They're a lot of fun too. So you can have some crazy armor builds as well with those. I don't want to go into all of them right now because we're already at an hour. I think we've covered everything we need to for the characters.
Right.
So yeah, so you guys, any changes you want to make to your character, you now know everything. You guys all have access to 2.0 too, so we should be. So you guys good? You guys have any other questions?
No, because honestly, there's some I want to pick up, but I don't really think that I necessarily need to make changes. I just need to spend some of my 50 points that are sitting around.
Yeah.
I think I am actually going to make a change, but I want to talk to you a little bit more in depth about that later. I need to like think about it a little bit.
Well, you're a little bit trickier because you're a vampire too.
Yeah.
I do also want to say we haven't been playing with finance. We're going to start playing with finance. So, Nellis, your finance is currently 3. Alfred, your finance is 5.
Okay.
And then I think...
Is this the money system?
Yeah. So, basically, how this has been in place since 1.5. We just weren't playing with it yet. Basically, how I don't like keeping track of money. So, basically, as you acquire money or prosperity, your finance score will go up. 20 being Jeff Bezos rich, 0 being hobo. Basically, every time you go to buy something, if it's more than what you have in your finance, you have to make a roll. You add your finance score to it. If you fail, you can't get it. You just can't afford it. If you succeed, your finance goes down by 1 and you get the item. If the item is less than whatever your finance is, you just lose a finance and gain the item.
Gotcha.
Instead of like worrying about, I have exactly 2,000 and I've got 1,000 coming in, and I hate that shit. It's obnoxious. I despise it. So I would much rather focus on the fun stuff, which is this, in my opinion. So yeah, you guys. So no other big questions then to ask here.
No. I think
No.
I'm good.
All right, everybody.
The one quick question on the character sheet. I noticed that it doesn't have spellcraft as a skill. I'm guessing that's what the setting skills are for.
Yes. So
Okay.
I'm glad you mentioned something, because I worked for fucking days on these ridiculous character sheets, and I finally created some. Just so that everybody knows out there, I could not figure out a way to add them to the actual document. So they are just an extra document that you can just download for the purchase price of the game. If you've already purchased price of the game, you can get it already. Just go and download it. If you've already purchased the game, 2.0 is yours. Like, once you purchase the game, any updates are yours, period. So you can go download it. But the way I did it, which I don't know why I'm doing this to the camera. You can't see it, but... So you have your stat force, and then I put a box there for injury hashes. So as you get injured, you could hash it so that you know it's there. The skills are for the number, obviously, and then the setting skills has 5 boxes for whatever the setting skills are. You can add into those boxes wherever they need to be, basically.
Gotcha. That's what I figured. Just checking.
Okay.
And then there's like an extra box for each of the perks. So like basically that front the front sheet gives you exactly what you need for each stat, basically. And then the back is all cheat sheet all the time. And
Perfect.
Wiz, I obviously can't give you one in person since you are hours away in a different time zone, but I did send you the document, so you should be able to print it out yourself.
I did. I downloaded it. I do need to print it out. I will do that before next game. Printer is stupid at my house. I need to do something about that at some point. But
all good. All right, so I hope you guys enjoyed this. Everybody out there, sorry it was very stat heavy, but like I said, we could not game today. But we wanted to get through this character stuff. We took the time to do it. We figured it'd be fun to do it in front of you guys, give you guys kind of like a little tour of what 2.0 is going to be, or what it is, because it's out now. And yeah, let's do the plugs. Phil Billy, anything you want to plug, sir?
Honestly, life's been real busy. I haven't been doing much other than on this side of things, other than Astral Drive and DMNT, which you can check out tomorrow. We should be live streaming that, pending no catastrophes happen. And so check us out there, and we will be actually doing some role playing, which I'd say tomorrow, and that doesn't mean anything with the way this show's released. But what I mean is July 11th.
Yes. Yeah, this is actually going to go up next week. So
I'm sorry, that was in the past. But go watch it now.
Yeah, go watch it now. Go watch TMNT. It has been a lot of fun, both of these guys playing it. Wiz, anything you want to plug?
As always, thewizardsrespite.com, a website that dives into all things TTRPG. We also, all of the RPG stuff that's on this channel can also be found there. We have Wizards Respite Sanctorum, where Zach and I talk about all things TTRPG. We do a lot of fun deep dives. If this is your hobby, that is your show. Definitely check it out.
As far as TTRPG stuff, we have a lot going on the channel. I would say it actually is more than our video game content right now. But check out all of it. As far as new shows go, please check out the ID, the actual Doctor Who Actual Play podcast. I'm very proud of that. And then check out our The Last Tea Shop, The Endless Road. Me and Wiz did a series of that. They're small, 15-minute, easy breezy listens. And then other than that, obviously, Single Mod is out. When this comes out, it will still be on sale for one more day. So please go get it. It's 50% off. It's $3. Go to itch.io, search Single Mod, check it out. Like, really check it out. I mean, I am very proud of this work. I think it's finally at a place where we can just start busting out settings, and I'm very excited about that. So we will be back in 2 weeks, hopefully, with more Astral Drive stuff. Like I said, I'm going to do all this nonsense with Brian privately before then, and then we're going to just jump right back into the crazy role-playing that I have had planned and we have not gotten to because of life. But I've just been sitting there waiting for us to resolve a hostage situation in a panic room, and it's driving me nuts because I got so much planned for that and I can't do anything with it. So you guys come back then and check it out. You guys can also reach us on Facebook at OldManGamingDH. You can check us out on Twitter at OldManGaming9. You can buy our shirts at WizardsRespite.com. Also, check out Wizards Respite at WizardsRespite.com. And then as long as you guys keep watching and listening, we'll keep making them. We'll see you guys next time.